All right, and as always, John Wertheim. John, we have a lot to get to. Obviously, Miami in full swing. We should probably touch off the top. Just this. There's kind of like a new big three in men's tennis, or at least like a big four, like Novak adjacent. He's kind of present. Sometimes he's still the best player on earth when everything is right, but Alcaraz, Sinner, Medvedev, in his absence, have kind of almost created their own little like subcommittee of reliability, right?
I was going with the turducken metaphor, but yeah, it's weird. But Djokovic's number one, 400. What are we at? I think 418 weeks. That's a big number.
All of the weeks.
That's
all
a double Rafa. Can you believe that?
It's a joke. It's crazy. His numbers are so
silly,
far past comprehension. It just none of it makes any sense at all. It's just he's so far past the shark. It's crazy.
That's like 8 years atop the heap. But you're right. I mean, the irony is he also hasn't won a tournament this year, and there's a bit of a personnel shakeup, perhaps we'll address. But yeah, in his absence, and it's such a weird thing, isn't it? Right? I mean, you figure like the body breaks down. Okay, he's almost 37. We get that. This doesn't seem at all physical, which makes it all the more strange. But yeah, in his absence, you're right. There does seem to be this. Can I say turducken? Can we go with that one? This three-way, three-man race.
Yeah, for those who don't know where turducken is, can you we have an international audience. It's basically you stuff a turkey with a bunch of other shit too?
It's sort of what were the turkey, chicken, duck braiding. When they say the United States has one of the highest obesity rates and 80% of the population is overweight, I would point to the turducken as approximate cause. Anyway, point being, we sort of have this three-way braiding. I don't know who's the chicken, turkey, or duck among Sinner, Alcaraz, and Medvedev. Choose your own. But yeah, I mean, three guys, food metaphors notwithstanding, three guys have kind of distanced themselves from the pack this year. And ironically enough, not one of them is ranked number one.
Yeah, I think that's coming. You feel like Sinner's gaining on it. Obviously, has less to defend than everyone else, but Alcaraz back in full flight. It's exactly what we need. Seems like he's having a blast. Every time I look up, he's with Drake and Neymar and Jimmy Butler and all of these other people who are legitimate fans of his, right? It feels like he's playing the home game, and then there's like this cool orbit around him. The guy's a star. He is so much fun to watch, and it's kind of represented by the fandom generally that he's created. And conversely, on the women's side, none of the top three seeds are there. By the time this airs or whatever, but like it was just a tale of kind of two favorites, and it went the opposite directions in Miami.
Yeah, and I would say this is one reason why we like mixed events. So we like men and women competing simultaneously. One of them is, hey, it's the NCAA tournament, and this bracket is wide open, and the other has more consistency. I really like what you said about Alcaraz, because first of all, you're right. You don't get the sense this is, hey, it's the young kid who's amazing, and he gets to meet Steph Curry. You get the feeling Steph Curry's just as thrilled to meet Carlos and vice versa. And also, have you seen a player recently who brings this much joy to the common fan? I mean, the experience of his watching him, as the experience of watching one of his matches, it hits different, as the kids say.
Yeah, and I think in our generation, it was like the players wanted to watch Roger because he could do things racket skill wise, and Rafa was like, okay, it was this blunt force trauma of physicality and spin, and Novak is like, he's like a wrestler who gets you into holds that you can't get out of. And, whereas, Roger kind of had this grace, and he would come off with shots that looked like he was playing video games. And now Alcaraz is almost like a combination of all three, right? He's like this kamikaze. He's still finding his way. I think the best version of himself will be when he gets a little bit more Novak into his game, where he kind of just, makes things a little bit more boring and isn't spectacular all the time. When I was with Andre Agassi in Vegas, that's kind of what he was saying. He's like, he's so spectacular. I think like the next point of success is becoming maybe a little bit more boring on court, and kind of getting people, locking them down, and not throwing as many uppercuts.
Oh, don't say that. You're probably right. The flip side is that, don't you get the feeling he really revels in the shot making? And sometimes he goes for these crazy around the net shots, and he loves the tweener and the drop shot. I get the feeling he, not in the way Roger did, where it's just performance, but I get the feeling this guy likes the memes. He likes the highlight shots. And I think it's part of his MO that, half a dozen times a match, he's going to try something crazy. And 3 of those 6 times, it's going to be great. And we're all going to see it on our feeds. And 3 of the 6 times, we're going to say, this guy's playing like a junior. He needs more Novak. But I get the feeling that not only is he sort of fun and flashy, it has this level of energy, but he knows it. And it's part of what he enjoys about where he is right now.
See, I almost this is good. We need to disagree more often. I almost feel like it's like a cup that you fill to the top and it just spills over because it's so full. Like Memphis is a guy who is going to try he's going to try to make a highlight, right? He's going to actually, I always get mad on TC when we have the hot shot of the day and it's like a gratuitous hot shot, right? Like Musetti did one a couple days ago where he ran in stride. He was facing Alcaraz and instead of just hitting a forehand and winning the point, Alcaraz was at net and he was coming forward, he kind of overran it and played it between his legs lob. I'm like, that's a fancy shot, but it's not like it's like I say it's the Murphy Jensen diving in doubles, right? Like half of them were necessary, right? I love Murphy, but half of them were necessary. I feel like Alcaraz, it almost comes out because that's the way he sees the court. Like he has this uber aggressive mentality, and it just manifests in this crazy athletic, but he hits these soft volleys, but he's on the full stretch. I don't know that it's as gratuitous as we make it out to be. I feel like it's almost, it just spills out of him. It just spills over because the cup of options is just too full. But I'm glad he's found his confidence. I feel like the difference between him in the second half of last year and what he's found since that first round at Indian Wells is he's not hitting shots anymore. He's playing points. And that's the best version of him, and it's exciting to watch. Sinner is just, he a little bit like Swiatek, he just goes out and just smothers you. Like, just start to finish, I'm going to hit quality shot after quality shot after quality shot, and I don't have a lot of really obvious patterns. And then Medvedev is like this prototype of, 6'6". I play opposite of the way every American coach is taught for the last 30 years. The nuance of shot tolerance and backing up and keeping the ball down. And I'm 6'6" and I can move. I also have a big serve. It's just like this kind of it's like this new wave of tennis presented 3 different ways. And I'm here for it. I love watching it. It's just fantastic.
I think you're right. I think there's a lot of personality conflict. I don't know, conflict. There's a lot of sort of personality diversity among the 3 of them, right? I think we've got sort of a nice group of stylists, but also there's just a different approach to the sport. They're from 3 different countries. There's a lot to like. I don't know. Did we talk? Quick detour. Did we talk about Medvedev's serve last time?
Talked about. Go ahead.
But no, when he won the U.S. Open, he was the best server in the draw. I think he was got broken once in a 3-set final by the best returner of all time. He was broken more than 20 times in Australia and came with it instead of winning. In Indian Wells, he got to the finals. He was broken, 19 times. I don't know what's going on there.
Well, okay, so the U.S. Open final against Novak, where he barely got broken and ran through him in 3 sets, it was a little bit different, right? It's when he plays Novak or other great returners, mostly against Novak, his second serve goes from like an average of 92 that he can throw in against most people and feel comfortable in that rally. Like he wants that to get hit back and he wants to start over. Against Novak, he goes up 15 miles an hour. That day he executed, right? So he is in the 2 shots that you can see him intentionally raising the risk profile when he has to are the second serve. He'll take it from 92 up to 107, 108 and stepping inside on the forehand side. Against a player that he knows he can wear down and that he can beat over time and doesn't have to punch someone out. He can let them punch themselves out. He'll kind of go roller derby forehand, move it around the court. I think it's his most improved shot in the last 3 years because he steps inside and is more aggressive when he needs to. But against a Novak, he did it last year in the semis of the U.S. Open against Alcaraz. Early on in that match, he established, like, I'm going to step in and take forehand line almost irresponsibly sometimes. So for him, that variance is a lot of times very strategic. Like, he would have liked to have lost serve less in Australia, but I don't know that there's a direct line to that single match. We're taking a stat at scale from the Aussie Open, which he lost his serve way more than he normally does, which manifested in him being on court more than any human ever has during a Grand Slam event. But the Novak of things specifically, maybe Alcaraz, maybe Sinner, he tends to be more aggressive because those are probably the only three people that he doesn't want extended rallies with all the time. So I think that's actually a conscious decision by him. And when he plays the best in the world, he has to be a little bit more aggressive than if he was playing, plumbers like me or someone ranked 30 or 40 in the world. But his break rate is the second on tour. I mean, he's 6'6", and he breaks. It's just phenomenal. Anyways, we've gone on for a second about this, but more to just say I'm having so much fun watching it because it's like after the big three. So I put Novak kind of exists in two different groups, right? Because he's the last one standing. But you say, how is the game going to change? How can it possibly improve from these three? And not to say that Alcaraz, Medvedev, and Sinner are going to be better, but different ways to approach playing elite tennis and record crowds. For me, it's fun. The eyeball test is passing. I expected a vacuum in quality post big three in Murray and Wawrinka. And I expected a vacuum of maybe interest and attendance, and I've thankfully been wrong on all sides of it. It's just tennis is booming. These three are playing, elite tennis consistently, and I'm here for it. I love it.